morning gospel comes from Luke, the 13th chapter. At that very hour, some Pharisees came and said to Jesus, "Get away from here, for Herod wants to kill you." He said to them, "Go and tell that fox for me. Listen, I am casting out demons and performing cures today and tomorrow. And on the third day I finish my work. Yet today, tomorrow, and the next day I must be on my way, because it is impossible for a prophet to be killed outside of Jerusalem. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often have I desired to gather your children together, as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. See, your house is left to you, and I tell you, you will not see me until the time comes when you say, 'Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord.'" This is our gospel. You may be seated. Will you pray with me? Holy and beautiful Creator, now may the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be ever pleasing to you, O God. Amen. Well, I want to ask you to think for yourself, imagine, step into your childlike brain and imagine with me, what do you think God looks like? Does God look like a big, strong lion like Aslan in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? Or does God look like a big, warm, tasty loaf of bread torn open and shared with all the people? Maybe you might think that God looks like a man with blonde hair and blue eyes sitting on a throne. How about a mother? Does God look like a mother to you? Would you choose a mother who is lamenting over her young who are exposed to danger and that they are walking around and not accepting her protection? In today's text, Jesus is comparing his own self to a hen, a mothering hen, as she desires to gather all of her little children under her wings so that she can provide them with safety. And yet all of the little children are not running to her. Like chicks do, they're kind of running off, wobbling everywhere. If you've ever owned chickens or know somebody who owns chickens or been to a farm and seen how chicks just kind of wobble back and forth, kind of fumbling around looking for food, and the mother's just trying to get them and gather them together. Well, I want to tell you a story of how I think God feels for us. And this is a story that I am never supposed to tell with my family around. So luckily, my family's not here. Nobody tell my mother that I'm telling this story. Mom, I hope you're not watching online. When I was a freshman in high school, my older brother was a senior in high school. My younger brother was about 10. We took a cruise, and one of the stops that we went to was Key West. Now, this was before we all had cell phones, and so we had 2 walkie-talkies that we shared between the 5 of us. And when we stopped at Key West, my younger brother, who was 10, and my mom took one of the walkie-talkies. My older brother, me, and my dad took the other walkie-talkie. Now, we went on this trip during winter break, and so it was also a Sunday, and we were still in the United States here in Key West, so we wanted to go watch the Bengals game. So my dad, my brother, and I walked around Key West until we found a bar that had the Bengals game on. My younger brother and my mom were together exploring and going to little shops and maybe looking at souvenirs that my brother wanted to see. Now, my younger brother is extraordinarily independent and headstrong. And so at some point within this time that they were shopping together, he went off on his own. And now he was just walking through Key West without any adult. And my mom looked around and realized that she didn't know where he was, that she had lost track of him in a place that she had never been before. And neither had he, and all we had were walkie-talkies. Except he had the walkie-talkie, my mom did not have it. My dad had the other one. All of a sudden, we start hearing rumbling within the different bars and shops. The cops have been called. There is a lost child in Key West. And all of a sudden, my dad starts hearing on the walkie-talkie my little brother asking where we are. And my dad is asking him where he is and where's Mom. And he says, I don't know where Mom is, but I'm naming streets and different shops, as told by a 10-year-old. My dad said, I have no idea where that is. So we left where we were to go walk around Key West to try to find my little brother. Finally, at some point, we run into him. I don't know how. Two walkie-talkies somehow connected. But we still didn't have my mom. After a little bit of time, she comes around the corner, and I can still see the look on her face of pure fear that her child has been lost, that she didn't know how to get in contact with him. When I imagine God as a mother, I imagine the look on my mom's face when she couldn't find my little brother. The desire, the desperation to gather us all under one protective roof so that we are safe, so that we are loved. And how often do we unknowingly just walk away, following things that we think are the right decisions, maybe things that might be more personal to us, things that might be selfish, and God tries to grasp and to pull us back in her wing. A mother hen trying to gather her children as a fox approaches. And the children are zigzagging and wobbling as chicks do, headed straight towards the embrace of danger and not towards her embrace. And instead of running away from the fox, what she does is she runs towards the fox. She runs towards the danger, saying that I love my children so much that I will die for them. One of my favorite memories back from when I was in seminary was getting to stay in this tiny little town in Honduras. And every morning you would wake up and you would hear roosters crowing. And as you walked around from place to place, tiny little chicks would follow you. And then there would always be just mother hens kind of wobbling everywhere, trying to figure out where all of their chicks are. I imagine that this is God. That we, God's chicks, are zigzagging everywhere, seemingly not knowing where to go, trying to listen to God, trying to listen to the cluck of God to pull us back in. And we try to go in that direction, but every once in a while, we turn off on our own, trying to follow our own way, which we don't know if it's God's way or not. We're just listening. In today's gospel, Christ is staring at this cast of characters that have been wobbling back and forth, trying to follow Jesus. Jesus is trying to share with them this way of love, this way that will protect them or keep them safe, keep everyone safe. Christ's chicks who are standing before Christ, they are the Pharisees, the disciples, Jerusalem, the house of Israel. And Jesus continues to pursue them. As Jesus continues to pursue them and to teach them, all of these cast of characters, they all have the ability to fall prey to any evil coming before them. Whatever is compelling or lurking or shiny, whatever the evil of the world is, it's very easy for us to just turn that way. Here are the chicks of Christ in our story. The Pharisees, a holy religious order meant to keep the oral law and the Torah, and a source of wisdom for all the people. But some are so close to the political power that they have been corrupt by the Empire of Rome. Not all, but they all have the ability to turn towards corruption. Jerusalem, the holy city of David, where once sat the Ark of the Covenant, the city which is called the place of peace, is also the city that kills and stones the prophets who come to it. It is the place that Jesus will then be condemned and killed. Even today, it is not a place of peace, but it is supposed to be the holy city of David. The disciples, those whom are the closest to Jesus, have been with him since the very beginning of his ministry, yet they do not always grasp the reality of the words that Jesus has been saying, so much so that when we get to this part of the story, as Jesus is consistently predicting his death, they don't get it. They don't understand. And then as we go on the next few weeks in Lent, we will hear that these same disciples, the ones that have been with him since the beginning, will abandon him while he's on trial in Jerusalem. Then there is the house, where all of the people of God metaphorically live together in harmony under one roof, but this house is shattered by discord within the family. Pharisees, scribes, priests, all the people seeking different ways of self-gain. And then there's Herod, looking to devour the livelihood of the people as though he is a fox on the hunt, trying to get these newly hatched chicks. But still a person. Still a person of who God desires to gather together to love, to be under her wing. All of these different characters within our story, God desires to gather and to love. Yet they all have the ability to every once in a while follow towards evil, or to take a wrong step, or to think about things that are selfish. Just like how a little chick walks, wobbling and zigzagging from one direction to the other, humanity wobbles back and forth, going from one direction to the other, back and forth, good and evil, between following the will of God and then following our own internal will of self, between following the communal understanding of loving neighbor, but then also the individual need of personal wealth, status, and success and pride. Where do we get to let that go? When do we get to let that go and to only be fully encapsulated by God's loving wing? Christ in this story is lamenting as a mother laments for her children to come under her protection. That how often her wings are opened wide, desiring for everyone to take refuge in her embrace. And she is determined. She is determined for her love to be unwavering, even in the face of danger. As a fox is coming towards her chicks, she stands her ground, refusing to leave her young exposed, even to the point where she is exposed to danger. Christ will follow us to the very depths of all of our own self-destruction, to the depths of an addiction, to the depths of greed, hate, pride, envy, to the places where we don't want anyone else to see that we've gone to. Christ will go there with us. Like a mother, God is seeking us out. Like a loving hen whose children are being hunted down by a fox, she does not turn around. She goes towards the danger. She stays with her children. With her wings opened wide, desiring that we are able to see the love of God always, going towards that embrace, that in times of evil or self-hate or self-destruction, we're able to look around and to see that God's wings are open and that she desires you to come near. How I desire, says Christ. How I desire that as I open my wings wide for my children, that they want to be gathered there too. How I desire, says Christ, that as I open my wings wide for my children to be gathered under them, that the children also desire to be gathered as well. Amen.